It is exactly 16 after 8 o'clock South African time. We cross over to Venezuela to talk with Obed Bapela. He is standing by. He is a senior member of the ANC. He's also an NEC member, and we're going to be talking about the elections in Venezuela. Now, I was going to be asking a whole host of questions regarding the mood on the ground, regarding the awaited results. But let me just start off with this one paragraph, and then I was quite shocked when I got the breaking news, but be that as it may, we do know that Latin American leaders, including Brazilian President Lula da Silva, called on Maduro to commit to stepping down if he loses the elections. Venezuelan opposition figures have also appealed to the country's military that has long supported Maduro and his predecessor to respect the results. The Venezuelan leader said his victory will ensure peace in the country. And the breaking news at a few minutes ago or a little while ago is that, in fact, Nicolás Maduro, 61-year-old, has been declared the winner in Venezuela's presidential elections by the Electoral Authority, setting up a high-stakes showdown that will determine whether the South American nation transitions away from one-party rule. So my opening statement was, of course, in prep for possibly the elections, the winner not having been declared. But as we've just heard in the breaking news, that Maduro has been declared the winner once again. So to tell us more about what went down during the elections, which started yesterday, is none other than a senior member of the NEC here in South Africa, senior member of the ANC, and also NEC member. He is down in Venezuela. He is, of course, Obed Bapela. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program. Wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. Also to your listeners and viewers. I understand it's both radio and TV.
Okay. Yes, it is online radio. So tell us, what exactly are you doing there? Are you part of the contingent of all foreign high-ranking government officials to see that, to ensure that these elections were fairly conducted and the winner fairly announced?
Thank you very much for the question. We are here as a South African delegation in various capacities. Myself, as the NEC member, as you said, Deputy Chairperson of the NEC International Relations Committee. We are also joined by Comrade Soli Petwe, the General Secretary of COSATU is here, the Deputy General Secretary of SSCP, Madala Masuku, including Ben Martins, who is the head of the International Relations for SSCP. We are therefore also met and are with other delegates that are representing civil society organizations such as Umjondolo Association and obviously the grandson of Nelson Mandela, Mandla Mandela, is also here in his capacity representing the Umvezo Traditional Council. So yeah, it's quite a number of us, and we were invited by the ruling party of Venezuela, the party of Maduro, ourselves, but then the others were invited by the Simon Bolivia Foundation, and then and also by their friends in Venezuela. So that's why I'm saying we are, and the CNE, which is the Electoral Commission of Venezuela, it invited other electoral institutions such as our IEC. They are also here from South Africa. They are also there to see and then learn. And obviously, we have seen the most peaceful elections and people were just willingly moving around in their big numbers, going to the polls. There was no intimidation, there were no disruptions, and also the process is open and so transparent that even the allegations that were doing rounds in certain media houses that these elections are fraudulent, we didn't see anything that could really prove that particular statement otherwise. The process is clinical, is transparent, is both electronic, backed up by a physical system where a voter arrives, put on their fingerprints on a machine that recognizes them as a eligible voter, plus the ID that gets scanned. And after that, you go to the poll, you press a button of whoever is the candidate that you wish to do. And before you could even print what you are voting for, it asks you a question: are you sure that you'll do so? Then if you have doubts and we reread, you can press again. But majority of people will press once and then move to a counter where they put their fingerprints on the book with an ink and then put a signature to then indicate that this is not a robot. So this is how transparent and open the process was.
So I think the big question the global community is asking now is, do we do we think that Venezuela will move away from one party rule? We also know that the army is behind Maduro. Maduro has the strongest support as far as the army is concerned. What are you hearing on the ground?
Well, we saw a lot of posters of opponents, the individuals that were also contesting. There were 10 candidates in all who had participated in these elections, freely going around and then ensuring that they are also participating. We can see even the results is 51%, and the other second person got 33 to 34% of the percentages of elections. So that indicates, therefore, that there was a fierce contest, and the results are indicative. If it was one party, probably Maduro will not have even got to 51%, will have gone, like we saw in one of our African countries there in Rwanda, where the president wins elections by 99.8%, meaning that then indicates something. But yet, for a person, Maduro, to win with just 51%, it was a tough contest. And that's an indication of democracy and in function and participation by everybody who wanted to do. So there's no one party state in Venezuela. So I do not know where they get this. Even in the previous elections, they were highly contested. And therefore, the Maduro party, when it wins, we cannot then begin to describe it as something else. But we did not even see an incident of any violence, because in the party state, we'll see the army all over pushing people from their homes to go and vote. So there was none of that. It was a public holiday yesterday. People stayed home, but they were out in big numbers by 6 o'clock in the morning, as a way of demonstrating this particular point. We went to one voting station. We arrived at 9 o'clock as observers. By that time, 864 people had already cast their votes, 6 in the morning when the stations opened. So that figure is high. In South Africa, they open at 7 o'clock. You'll see trickling of people going in. By the time we arrived at 9 o'clock, queues were long, and then people were waiting patiently. Police, army were just guarding the voting stations. The streets were free of soldiers. So I do not know. What I know about the dictator is the army will then be all over in trucks and so forth. But this one was not that way, and there will be no media picture that can demonstrate that particular fact.
But undoubtedly, these results will be a huge disappointment for approximately 8 million Venezuelans who have fled the country and they have migrated to the States and other parts of the world simply because they believe that Maduro doesn't have the charisma nor the oil revenues of his late revolutionary mentor, Hugo Chavez. There is large scale unemployment and poverty in Venezuela, and thus 8 million of the Venezuelans have left the country. How does that picture then look?
Well, look, there are sanctions, as you'll know, that unilateral sanctions have been imposed on Venezuela by the United States, and obviously, whatever U.S. does, its other partners will follow, like European countries, and then probably these sanctions might and or do have an effect on the growing of the economy. So obviously, people will leave the country for better opportunities elsewhere under the pretext that they're running away from a brutal regime. And yet that brutal regime does not exist in Venezuela. I'm not here to defend the country, but there could be other various issues of why these people decided to go to exile. But the freedom of movement and association and of expression is there. Maduro is a charismatic leader now. Yes, if this was said in the previous elections, I had a similar view that he does not have the charisma of Hugo Chavez. But having arrived again 5 years after we saw the elections in this country, we are so much excited around him emerging as this charisma when he's on TV, when he addresses the rally in the multitudes and thousands that came. He is a people's person. He even have other mechanisms of being in touch with the people. He has fired ministers that has misperformed. He is also moved on those who were corrupt. And he didn't even use the word that some of them are here, some of them are my friends, and I'll deal with them. And he has dealt with them in that particular way. So slowly, indeed, Venezuela is turning the corner, is turning around. These sanctions also, relaxed as they are still have an effect, obviously, on the growing of the economy. And the number of the millions that are overseas hoping one day they will then begin to trek back home to say our country is turning. If those who contested can get 33% of the vote, then it shows therefore that the freedom of association, expression is now guaranteed in Venezuela. But obviously there were threats also in the past after Hugo Chavez passed on of interference, of disruptions, of fights on the streets. Those things are things of the past. And then Venezuela is just here. We hope the U.S. will lift the sanctions so that the economy of Venezuela, which is rich with minerals, oil in particular, as we know, can then prosper and that people can prosper. So we did not see any incident of that nature, and people went about their businesses since we arrived here.
Obed Bapela, thank you indeed for talking with us this morning about the elections and, of course, that Maduro is going to be serving another term as the president of Venezuela. Thank you indeed for your insights. You have yourself a wonderful time in Venezuela and return home safely. God bless.
Thank you very much to your viewers and to yourself. Thanks.
8:31 News and Views moving along. Standing by to talk with us now is Senzo Mchunu. He's going to talk to us about a whole host of issues. We are obviously the main issue being the Libyan recruits, 95 of them. that are supposedly in South Africa to train as security guards, but it has been found that the training camp is in fact a military training camp. So all of that and more coming up on the show. This is News and Views on Salam Media.